Good evening, everyone. We are excited to start our roundtable. We'll just give a couple of more minutes to any latecomers to get settled in. Thank you. Hi, Janae. Are we good in numbers? Do we have majority of people registered online?
Yes. Not everybody has joined us as yet, but we have a couple people right now in the room.
Okay, great. Wonderful. I see Sheila. Welcome, Sheila. Margaret. Diana. Hello. I see Elise, Renu, Parker. Okay. Beatrice. Wonderful. Gabrielle. Hi, everyone. Maybe we'll wait for a couple of more shelters to join us before we start. So before we begin, could I please ask that you put yourselves on mute? We started on mute. And if there are any questions, please submit them on the chat and we will answer them during the Q&A session, just to help us stay on time. All right. Okay, so it's 6:35. Welcome, everyone. Good evening. And we're delighted to bring to you our Roundtable Information Session. My name is Tina Maysami, and I'm the founder and director of Dr. Borna Maysami Foundation and the project Restoring Smiles. We're so delighted to bring you this evening's program as we're joined here with our wonderful colleagues and friends who have really helped for the past 10 years to help us arrive at where we are today with our work. By way of background, I'm an oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I practice right here in Toronto. I trained in surgery at University of Toronto and then completed a fellowship in trauma and reconstructive surgery in Johannesburg, South Africa. Upon my return to Toronto in 2002, I worked at William Osler Health Center, at Etobicoke General Hospital and Brampton Civic Hospital for about 16 years, where I provided mainly surgical treatment for facial trauma and facial reconstruction. I'm currently on staff at North York General Hospital and also University Health Network, where I mainly provide treatment of obstructive sleep apnea, and I'm the director for sleep disorders at the Division of Dentistry. With that background, I want to tell you a bit about our main program here at our organization, Restoring Smiles. Restoring Smiles is the first project under the umbrella of the Dr. Borna Maysami Commemorative Foundation. This foundation is one that came from a place of loss and trauma. In 2009, sadly, after the recent loss of my beloved brother Borna, I founded our nonprofit organization along with 4 of my dear friends and colleagues who have joined us tonight: Maureen Fenn, Yasmin Mauji, Shiva Shadman, and Renu Varshley, and we'll have a chance to meet most of them tonight as well. Borna Maysami was an orthopedic surgeon. He was a humanitarian and my first mentor in feminism. And it was only fitting that any organization in his honor would aim to support women in need. And with that, the Dr. Borna Maysami Foundation was built, and we envision a future when every Canadian woman impacted by domestic violence has access to the free dental treatment and reconstructive support they need in order to lead healthy, fruitful, active, and socially engaged lives. Through the Restoring Smiles program, the foundation provides free dental and orofacial reconstructive services to women who have survived domestic violence. Our goal and our motto is to restore a smile, and by doing that, empower a woman in order for her to reclaim her life. I couldn't think of a better introduction to tonight's meeting than to share with you a documentary that features one of our past patients, and it shines a light on her story and her journey of success, and also her experience with Restoring Smiles. So I'm gonna ask Matt to please run the video. It's a short video, about 9 minutes long. I hope you enjoy it. After this wonderful video, we will have a panel discussion with the star of the movie and also 2 of our board members. Matt, can you please start the video?
One thing is to realize that you gotta do it. The other thing is to find ways to do it. It's not that life is not fair, society is not fair. Their vision of you becomes what you think you are. I thought many times if I would go back in time and I would be able to undo things that happened, would I do that? And the answer is no. Everything that happened led me to this moment and to the place I am and to who I am. And I don't regret it, although it was tough many times. I do not regret it. Reading is my passion. Even when I was younger, I just swallowed the books just one by one. And I was lucky enough that my mother had a huge library at home. Every possible spot was taken over by books, and I absolutely love that. I met Jeffrey through a mutual friend. There was a lot of things that we had in common, so I guess in the beginning it worked. And then it's like a quicksand. Once you realize that you are up to your neck and you're trying to do anything, it just sucks you more in. I remember a time when we were laughing uncontrollably. I had to leave to the washroom immediately, and as soon as I closed the door in the washroom, I started to cry. And I felt incredibly sad. I start to wonder if I'm going crazy. That was one of the moments that I start to realize and acknowledge for myself that there is something really wrong in this relationship. Turns out that I'm not crazy at all. Before I was thinking always that abuse is just hitting and that was it, that physical part. Turns out it wasn't. There's a lot more to it. There's emotional, mental, financial, belittling me, everything that makes you feel unsafe. And it's constant seesaw of the emotions, which is very tiring mentally. Things got worse when I told him I'm pregnant. All the behaviors that I knew already that are abusive escalated. When I took my tooth out from my mouth, that shattered my confidence to the almost very end. Because I thought that now I'll be seen as poor and uneducated. I'll be marginalized. I had to take a deep breath and just sink in all the way to be able to get myself up. The moment that I took the breath and sinked in was the time when I held Jessie in my arms for the first time. £6 and 4 ounces. I think I have to tell him eventually when he's gonna be older that that he's the one who saved me from that. So did you have fun today? One of the biggest thought that I had is that I don't want Jessie to have Jeff as a role model. Not being able to see there are different ways to be a man in this world. So one thing is to realize that you gotta do it. The other thing is to find ways to do it. That was stepping out to completely unknown. Go fish. Do you have any kings? Just one?
I have two. What?
Yeah, you got a good card. It's not that life is not fair, society is not fair. They judge how you look and they already assume that this is what you are. That's it. Not having a nice smile, my confidence was not existence. I didn't know how to go to start a work. Being in a shelter also, it's another prejudice. There might be a thought in me that it would be better if I would stay with Jeff because I wouldn't have to go out to people and present myself, as that was a really scary thing to do. Being seen as a confident person is your smile, your teeth. Before, I was still trying to hide myself. And now I don't even, this thought is not even crossing my mind. So there was a lot of people and circumstances involved. Today I am a college graduate and I am a social service worker. I think social service work choose me. Empathetic and caring person. Being in a shelter also, I notice how huge impact a person who would not marginalize can have in somebody else's life. The possibilities are endless now.
Thank you so much. I don't know about you, but my heart is racing, and every time I watch this film, it gets me to the core. Of course, I know Misha personally, and I've had the privilege of knowing her for several years. But I'm just amazed at her bravery and courage, and I'm endlessly grateful to you for allowing this film to happen, to be able to tell your story so beautifully. We are so lucky to have you with us. So I would like to take this moment to introduce Michelina Saido, the star of our film. Michelina is a former Restoring Smiles patient. She is a non-status person and survivor of abuse. She is college educated, registered social worker, and respite center supervisor. Michelina is a thriving single mom with a growth mindset. She has lived experiences within 4 shelters at Halton Women's Place, Salvation Army Family Life Resource Center in Brampton, Red Door Family Shelter, and the YWCA Beatrice Transitional House. She was an invited speaker to the Redwoods previous program, Women on the Move. Michelina has accepted a position with us as well, part-time, as a patient liaison and advisor since March 2020, and we are very, very fortunate to have her on our team. Welcome, Michelina, to our panel discussion. We are joined with 2 other wonderful board members for our panel discussion tonight. I'd like to introduce to you Celeste Poltak. Celeste is a board member and legal advisor for Dr. Borna Sami Foundation. She's a partner at Koski Minsky LLP in Toronto, where she practices class action litigation. She has worked on some of the most notable and historic class proceedings in Canada on behalf of historically vulnerable and marginalized groups, including the Indian Residential School Settlement, 60 Scoop, and Purge of LGBTQ from the military. She's a prolific writer in the area, including the authoritative texts in Canada on class proceedings, as well as lecturing at Osgoode Hall and University of Toronto Law Schools. Celeste has been named one of the top 500 lawyers in Canada and holds a Master's of Law degree from London School of Economics. Welcome, Celeste. We are also joined by Margaret Powell. Margaret is also a member of our board of directors and our psychosocial advisor. She is an occupational therapist and a psychotherapist at College Street Women's Center. She is the co-founder of College Street Women's Center, providing occupational therapy and psychotherapy to people who've experienced trauma in their lives. She feels privileged to have worked many years ago at Women's College Hospital in the first Ontario Sexual Assault Center. As a co-founder of the newly launched Changing Waves Neurofeedback and Psychotherapy Center, she's very excited to be offering neurofeedback, EMDR, and a safe and sound protocol to calm trauma survivors' nerve systems so they can engage in their healing work. Welcome, everyone. And I would like to ask for Celeste to start our panel discussion.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, Tina, and it's a pleasure to be here with you all tonight. Margaret, maybe I could start with you about the film that we just watched. What in particular stood out for you? Sorry, Margaret.
I was muted. Thank you so much, Tina, for your introduction, and Celeste, for your question. As Tina mentioned, I've seen this film with Michalina a number of times, and what stood out for me today was juxtaposition between the listing of the number of women's shelters Michalina was in, and then where she is today. The film depicts a woman who's very in control of her life, has created a beautiful, loving home for her family, her son and herself, and to all outward appearances, there would be no indication of all that she's gone through. And I think when we look at what the foundation offers women is a path, one of the many paths that are required to get to this place.
Well, and Margaret, on that note, in your experience working with survivors of trauma, what are some of the biggest barriers that they would face in seeking dental care at this particular point in their lives?
Yes, when I think about this question, I think we need to look at it from internal barriers and external barriers. When we're looking at people who've experienced domestic violence, they have gone through many, many, many episodes of abuse. And as Michalina mentioned, it's verbal, physical, financial, environmental, perhaps confinement, sexual abuse. And that repeated experience basically kind of renders someone is not good enough. There's sort of an erosion of self-worth. And so when you think about what it takes to access something for yourself, you have to matter. What you need, people are coming out of this situation, they have priorities that extend beyond themselves. And in order to seek dental care, somebody has to connect and tune into their own physicality and make their pain and their discomfort and their need important enough to even speak to a shelter worker. In our model, the person doesn't get help unless somebody knows they need dental help. So first of all, they have to matter enough to ask for the help. There's current research that's very interesting, and it's showing that the part of the brain for reward is very connected to what's called the ventral medial prefrontal cortex. And the circuitry in between the reward center for motivation and drive is weakened with repeated abuse. So the other internal barrier can be the amount of energy and drive that's required to seek out help. And if you think about it, there has to be initiative and energy to follow through, to be able to the drive to maintain appointments. I don't know about you, but my dentist is the only healthcare professional to call me to remind me of appointments. When I asked my dentist about that protocol, they said, well, people don't like to go to the dentist. So we have that as a, unfortunately, a very real baseline. The other thing is women, after they've been abused a lot, they have difficulty in asserting themselves. And so if they go through that process, they have to be able to speak up on their own behalf and indicate what they need. They can have sleep disorders, eating disorders, substance disorders. It can be very difficult for someone coming out of such a swirl of abuse to be able to be oriented to the present. In other words, keep track of the day and the time and the appointment when they have an upcoming dental appointment. And then there's external barriers like childcare. If someone is needing dental care, but they're also at work, can they take unpaid time off of work to get to their appointments? And, where does their dental care come into the priorities of all the things that have to be attended to? If somebody has fled their home, they might have ID. That might be a priority. That can take a ton of time. I'm giving very concrete examples. Getting their children established in school, maintaining their kids' homework and extracurriculars. And then let's not forget what it means to be out and about in the world. I just had a session earlier today around a woman who'd been severely abused in her relationship. And she only now, 10 years later, after 5 years of therapy, can go into the downtown core and imagine taking a job because she knows that man is at large in the downtown core. So if it so happens that the woman is very fearful to leave her neighborhood to be seen or go to an area perhaps where the dentist's office is that might be in connection with where the abuser is, that can be a barrier. It's so complicated. But what I want to leave you with is the importance of support people. And I think if one of the things we can keep in mind is to establish who are the women's supports, friends, family, the team. And the most important thing that I have found in the years is to ask the person what they need for help. They might need tickets. They might need a phone call to remind them. They might need a support person to talk to after the procedure. And I could go on.
I'm sure. No, as you say, Margaret, it's incredibly complicated set of dynamics at play, but you did a wonderful job of distilling it in such a succinct manner. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nicolina, maybe I could turn to you now. I'd like to start by also echoing Tina's comments and thank you for sharing that beautiful video clip with us, which I always find inspiring when I watch it. If there was one single thing that will stay with you from your experience with Restoring Smiles, what would you say that would be for you?
First of all, to all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to help out with the foundation. And the one thing that will stay for me would be definitely the life-changing, empowering process that it is. As the movie says, and I always repeat that I would not be here where I am right now if not the people that helped me get here. And having confidence in my smile is hugely important with following the confidence in my abilities as this is the first thing that people sees. And so it's incredible, life-changing process. There are glass ceilings here in society, not only here, but and if people are kept under this glass ceiling, they will not be able to move above. And process with foundation empowers enough to see that you are capable and able to do whatever you want to do. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Nicolina. Your analogy with the glass ceiling, I think, is a really apt one for this circumstance. And maybe, as Hillary said, we can crack it with one smile at a time.
Absolutely.
But in your personal experience, do you have any thoughts on delayed treatment versus urgent care? And I guess what I mean by that is whether you were ready at the moment that you left your situation. Would you have been ready right at that moment in time, or did it take time, or how did it happen for you? And what do you think would be the most appropriate time?
If, for me, it happened actually in the YWCA transitional housing. So the last shelter I was in. Personally, at the moment I left, I would not be able to go with the treatment. As Margaret was mentioning, there's a lot of things I had um, for me to take care of. There was my legal status in Canada. There was a court case, family court case, and a lot of other things that were urgent enough to be primary goal at the moment. But with that said, that's for me personally. There might be a lot of women who, for who this treatment would be a kickstart for a new way in their life. For some, it might be the cream of the top, the very last thing to launch them in their new life, and for some it might be the kickstart to go for it. So I think these things would be could be evaluated on a personal, individual basis.
I think that's fair. It's every person's situation is so different. As you say, there's no one size fits all. What do you think, though, would be for a woman who was seeking out treatment, that she's decided that she's ready to do that and she has the time and space in her life to do that? What would be some of the hardest barriers that she would face in trying to find a place like Restoring Smiles?
First of all, it's the sharing the resources. So roundtable like this is a fantastic opportunity to introduce this incredible resource to a lot of women. The more people knows about it, the more people will share the information, and it will get to more women. Sorry, could you please repeat the question?
Mm-hmm. No, I think what you say is probably right on so many fronts. It's that it really is education and publicizing it and more community discussion, because I think just a lot of survivors would probably not even be aware of it, as you say. So I think that's probably one of the largest barriers.
With the information there, sorry.
So no, sorry, go ahead.
With the information there, it will be easier to decide for women to have this treatment or early in her road, or to empowerment, or later. And other barriers would be just like Margaret was saying, childcare. It's important. Yeah. And even intimidation of the dental and the offices. The invitation might be in the beginning because you are at the moment very not very confident, and you're in a shelter. Let's say you have lots of problems, and yet this incredible things is put in front of you, and it might be, you might think you're not ready for it, or this is not for you. Also, how incredibly welcoming and how safe and secure the everybody working with foundation makes you feel that you belong there, that you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
That's lovely. And actually, I was going to end with one last question for you, and it's on the similar note. Now that you're the patient liaison for Restoring Smiles, do you have any other suggestions that could make the environment feel safe and secure and warm for women who enter in the first time?
I'm not sure there is more that can be done because in my personal experience, it's incredibly, you feel right away when you enter the doors to any dentist, and I've met a few, that you are absolutely welcomed. You feel that this is what's the good things that are coming for you. Um, the support that is there, it's incredible, and this thing by itself will raise the confidence in reaching out for more.
Thank you so much, Michalina. As always, your candor is so appreciated, and I really appreciate both you and Margaret answering my questions tonight.
Thank you very much.
That is amazing. Thank you, Margaret, Michalina, and Celeste, all three of you. Thank you so much for your insight. It's really, we're so lucky to have the advice and support of people like yourselves. And that's what has allowed us to break our own barriers, our own glass ceilings as an organization, as we look to the future, but also as we reflect back and learn from our 10 years of experience. A couple of years ago, to help us do just that, we recruited a research student to evaluate our work in the past decade. And for our next session of the program, I'd like to introduce you to Diana Boudram. Diana is a fourth-year dental student at University of Toronto. She has been involved with the Restoring Smiles program for the past 2 years, and I've had the personal pleasure of mentoring her both in her research and clinical work with the foundation. Following her upcoming graduation in June 2021, Diana intends to pursue advanced training in dentistry through a hospital residency program. I welcome Diana to present a brief summary of her research project with us.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. As Dr. Maysami introduced, my name is Diana, and I'm a dental student at the University of Toronto, currently in my final year. So I was also the first Restoring Smiles summer student hired through the Canada Summer Jobs Program, and my responsibility was to compile and analyze all of the donated treatment from 2010 all the way to the mid of 2019. So I just want to note that when I'm going over my numbers for this evening's presentation, that all of this data reflects the work that's been donated up until June of 2019, since that is when I added up all of these numbers. So it doesn't reflect any of the treatment that was donated for the remainder of that year or for this year. So this graph reflects the overall status of the patients that have been referred into the program at the time I crunched these numbers. So there were nearly 200 referrals total, and we were able to bring in about half of these individuals on board into the program. So of those individuals that we weren't able to treat, unfortunately, about half of those women we couldn't reach because their contact information wasn't no longer valid. And about another half of the ineligible patients were deemed so due to either they had some financial resources or housing arrangements that just didn't meet the criteria of the program. A small portion of women we were unable to accommodate for other limitations that I will touch on later. But moving on to the next slide, this graph represents the close to 100 women that received some treatment through the program at the time. So more than a third of these women were able to complete their comprehensive treatment plans. Another over a third were still receiving treatment. And about a quarter of these women completed some treatment, but for a variety of reasons just weren't able to receive the entirety of what was outlined in their initial treatment plans. So on the next slide, I'm just going to paint a picture for the typical patient that enters into the Restoring Smiles program. So Our referral sources at the time, we had about 35 different sources, the majority being shelters. At the time of referral, the majority of our patients are in their 30s, unemployed, many are on Ontario Works, and many have children. And what was interesting to me was that many of these women, or most of them, were actually in dental pain over having a smile defect. These are typically two of the issues that women present with. They're either in pain, have tooth pain, or have a functional issue, so difficulty chewing or difficulty speaking. The minority of them had issues with the way their smile looked. It was more so pain and lack of function. So moving on to the next slide, again, this paints a picture of the average patient. So our patients typically make many visits to both their primary dentist as well as at least one specialist. And the average treatment plan runs approximately $10,000, and they receive treatment over a period of about 3.5 years. So these are comprehensive, complex treatments that often wouldn't have been covered through Ontario Works or other social assistance programs. These are substantial treatments, lengthy treatments, detailed appointments, and there's often multiple practitioners involved. So a lot is invested into these women, and their treatments definitely aren't just quick fixes. So this is a bar graph reflecting the overall treatment donated per year from when the program began in 2010 up until 2019. So I just want to point out the general growth of the program. So from 2010 to 2013, the program grew immensely. There was a dip in 2014 to 2015, and that was due to a lack of resources and full-time administrative support. But following this period, we were thankful to receive funding through the Green Shield Community Grant. And as you can see from 2016 onward, we were able to donate a substantial amount of treatment to many women in need. And again, I don't have the numbers for 2020 reflected here. There would have been a dip due to the pandemic, but still very proud of the amount of treatment we were able to donate. And just looking at a couple of trends in the data that I find interesting, some of the more commonly seen specialists for these women included the oral surgeon. So the oral surgeon would do things like extract unrestorable teeth or teeth that had broken down so much due to disease and trauma that they no longer could be kept, as well as placing dental implants in order to rehabilitate women who presented with missing teeth. The orthodontist was also commonly seen, and women received braces and other treatments in order to align their teeth, help with the bite and jaw function more so than the aesthetic appearance of the teeth. And then the prosthodontists were also visited frequently, and the prosthodontists again specialize in rehabilitating patients and replacing missing teeth, typically with sophisticated crown and bridge placement as opposed to things like dentures. So as coincides with the most commonly seen specialists, the most common procedures included the surgical procedures of extractions and implants, a lot of restorative work, so that's removing decay and placing fillings and crowns to build the teeth back up, and just hygiene, so dental cleanings and treatment of gum disease, because a lot of the time these women hadn't received any dental treatment for many years prior to entering into the program. And finally, I just wanted to touch on a few barriers to treatment. So these were some of the main reasons why we were unable to treat some of our patients or accommodate them in the program. So we don't have translators at the moment. And so there was the spoken language issue. Also, a lot of the time, women who couldn't find anyone to look after the child wouldn't be able to come in for appointments. We had some referrals that were lost because these women relocated to outside of the GTA. And then the final barrier that I just want to touch on is that if we weren't able to bring these women into the program quickly enough, or even if we were, sometimes we would be faced with the issue of change of or inaccessible contact information. So that's just a quick summary of some of the work that I did last summer and some of the data I compiled. And thank you guys so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Diana, for that wonderful presentation. This is indeed, Diana, very important work that you started. And following your work, we connected with University of Toronto, one of your very own professors, as you know, Faculty of Dentistry. And we're delighted that this research will actually continue, hopefully as a master's thesis in dentistry within the Division of Community Health and Community Dentistry in the future. And it will be wonderful to partner with the university to systematically look at the impact of improving not only overall health, but also the oral health of individuals as a way of impacting their sense of social and economic well-being. In speaking with our potential partners at University of Toronto, they actually feel that the program, the study and the thesis is large enough to support a PhD thesis. So we're very excited, hopefully, to get that started in the next couple of years. For the next section of this evening's program, I would like to welcome our administrative and clinical teams to take us through the policies and protocols of the dental treatment we provide. To start, I'd like to introduce Janae Hosu. Janae is our lead administrator for Dr. Borna Maysami Foundation since our operations resumed in September of this year. She is the woman behind this meeting tonight and has been running everything from her screen. She is a graduate of University of Ottawa with a degree in French as a second language. Janae has experience working with nonprofit organizations in a project coordinator capacity. She's a trained goldsmith working on original design and custom pieces on her own time. Welcome to our organization, Janae, and it's been wonderful to have you. And thank you for bringing us back up to speed since you joined our team. Next, we have Dr. Maureen Fenn. Maureen is a member of our advisory board and one of the founding members of the foundation. She graduated from dentistry at University of Toronto, actually in the same class as myself in 1996, and completed a dental residency at Toronto General Hospital. She has been in private practice since 1997 at her current location, Danforth Dental Care, for 15 years. Maureen has spent time in the Native communities providing dental care and has provided unwavering support and commitment to our organization from day one. Welcome, Maureen. Next, we have Dr. Renu Varshni, who received her doctorate of dental medicine at the University of Manitoba in 1996, and then went on to complete her general dental residency at Mount Sinai Hospital in Toronto. Dr. Varshni is very active in organized dentistry and in the dental community. She's a member of the Ontario Dental Association. She is the past president of the Toronto Central Dental Society Executive Board, and currently she serves as a counselor for the Ontario Dental Association, representing Central Toronto. Renu is a long-serving clinical instructor at University of Toronto, Faculty of Dentistry. Welcome, ladies. I would like to ask that at this time, Janae takes us through the eligibility to our program and a review of the referral process, please.
Thank you, Dr. Masoney, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. So I'll be discussing our program eligibility and the referral process. In terms of our program eligibility, patients must fulfill the following criteria. So the candidate should be experiencing dental pain or discomfort or has visible defect that is tooth related when they smile or speak. They should self-identify as a survivor of domestic violence, should be living in or within the last 24 months, has transitioned out of a women's shelter. The candidate should be a Canadian citizen, a permanent resident of Canada, or applying for permanent residency. Should be between 18 and 65 years of age. The candidate should not have private dental insurance at the start of treatment because financial hardship is a requirement for admission into the program. And also lastly, they should agree to the terms outlined in the patient acceptance form, which I'll be speaking on about later on. In terms of our referral process, prospective patients are referred to the foundation using our online referral form, and it must be filled out by a caseworker or a shelter manager. The form can be found on our website, and I'm going to include the links on how to refer and the online referral form in the chat. After that, the treatment coordinator assesses the initial eligibility and sets up an intake interview. The intake interview allows the foundation to connect with the patient, confirm contact information, and provide an overview of our policies and procedures. Also, as part of our COVID protocol, during the intake interview, the treatment coordinator will be asking pre-screening COVID questions. After that, the eligible patients are matched to a screening dentist who conducts a cursory intake exam and outlines a treatment plan. If the screening dentist is male, the patient will be informed, and all patients are asked if they are comfortable seeing a male practitioner. So Dr. Fenn and Dr. Varshney will be answering a couple questions on our screening and treatment process.
Thank you so much, Janae. Wonderful. I would like to ask Dr. Fan, Maureen, to clarify and shed light on a couple of important parts of the process. Maureen, I was wondering if you would describe the screening process and then how that leads to the treatment process.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So generally what happens is we get a request from the foundation to screen a patient, and we reach out to those patients as soon as we can, generally within a day or two of receiving the request. And we try to connect with that patient. And once we've connected with them, we schedule a time that's mutually agreeable for the patient to come in and to be assessed. When they come in, we do take a look at their mouth to make sure that they are eligible based on our criteria. If they have a smile defect, if they have pain, as basically the criteria is very basic. And then once we've done that screening, we have an opportunity to review with them how we work with them moving forward, and that they've been accepted to the program. In all of the cases that I've screened, there's been maybe one or two that have been rejected because they did not meet that very basic criteria. So most cases do meet that criteria. It's lovely for these people who want the dental care to know now this bill is not going to be mine. It's going to be looked after by all these volunteer dentists that are going to help me get my dental life back on track.
What you said majority of people who are screened are indeed accepted into the program. What are some of the exclusion criteria?
So if I had a patient that came in and just said, you know, I'd like my teeth cleaned and whiter, I would probably exclude them. If they didn't have any disease, you know, and so if they were, and so most people in this group of women that do come to see us, they generally do have some form of disease, like infection of something, even if it's periodontitis, you know, so gum infection, that would qualify. However, I think I've had one or two that really they very, very basic care of cleaning, and they'd seen a dentist 6 months prior to that, and I thought, you know, we have other cases that are much more urgent and really needed care versus somebody who, not to say a cleaning is not important, it is. However, I was trying to prioritize the people who are really in dire need of care. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Because majority of people that that we do see have extensive needs for dentistry and reconstruction.
Right.
And so, yeah, naturally we have to focus. We want to focus on people that have the highest needs. So once the screening appointment takes place, what is the general wait time to see a practitioner for the real treatment plan to take place and for treatment to begin?
So when the patient leaves, we generally let them know that the foundation will be in touch with them once they have matched with a treating dentist. And the dentist they are matched with will create a treatment plan for them. And the entire treatment plan, everything that's on that treatment plan will be addressed with that patient, provided they are good at keeping their appointments and are able to come to all the appointments they've agreed to. In terms of when will they be seen by that treating dentist, it varies. I don't have a straight across answer for that. And the reason is sometimes we have a lot of patients and have a difficult time matching them all at the same time. So it's just about the program, whether we have a large influx of patients at that particular time, or maybe there's only one or two patients and it's simpler to match them. So I don't have a straight across rule for that. I wish I did. If they have an emergency, we are making a priority list with people who are having pain that we're trying to get to those patients first at this time.
Right. Yeah, I've also observed many challenges from the administrative perspective over the years, where you know, we try and match patients to dentists who are geographically closer to them to reduce the burden of commute. And also, you know, we have to be cognizant of which practitioner at which point has completed one patient and is able to accept another one. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Maureen, for your insight. Renu, I wanted to ask you to talk to us about the goal of these comprehensive treatments that Maureen spoke about. What can a patient expect, or what can the organizations who are referring the patients expect the experience would be like?
Okay, for sure. Yes. Okay, so we know that there's evidence that supports that their unhealthy teeth, damaged teeth, unhealthy gums, they can have an impact on an individual's mental health and quality of life. So we do approach it in a two-step approach. There are two levels. So one would be to eliminate any immediate pains that an individual may be experiencing, help, preventing them from even chewing, eating, talking, these kind of things, some urgent discomforts. And then the next step is then we move on to, once we've eliminated the pain and got them a little bit more comfortable, and this sort of kind of ties into the next step is restoring their function and reestablishing like a more natural smile for them.
And how long should they anticipate these treatment plans, these comprehensive plans to take?
Okay, that's a really good question. So once they're, depends on the complexity of the treatments. It can range from multiple visits. Like Diana had mentioned, we were looking at more sophisticated treatments that involve crown work, prosthetics, implants, and they have time to do. They also involve, depending on the complexities that we do, involve specialists. We're very lucky to have a good number of volunteer practitioners who are specialists who also provide it. So that would mean the visits would be at multiple locations on occasion. So it can take several months to about a year for treatment to be completed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. It can take some time depending on the amount of work required. What are some of the challenges that clinicians are facing right now with the work of the foundation?
Okay. So we're definitely in a different time than we were when we first developed our program. And since the pandemic has been called, we have experienced a lot more delays. Now it's twofold. There's two things that are happening. One is due to the complexity of the pandemic, there are a lot more people seeking help and seeking care from our program. So the volume of requests is there. We certainly have that. The other factor, which is on the practitioner side, is that there are now more protocols that we are facing. So treatments, none of the dental offices, at first were limited or even closed for a few months where there was a lot of backlog on our end. And now that we're back to regular care, we still are at limited capacity because of just so that we can make sure that we're following all the safety precautions and measures, and that also can delay things. So as a result, we've had to make a bit of a shift in how we're approaching treatment, because we don't want to have anyone suffering and anyone in extreme pain or urgent care. So our focus right now is focusing on more urgent care. I guess everyone's guess is when this will start to go back to normal, but we are going to really work hard to get into the comprehensive care, but that might also have to be put a little bit on the back burner so that we can make sure we can manage anybody who's coming into our program and accepted into our program. We just want to make sure that their care is also, that they're not suffering in any way. And basically we want to just stabilize their oral health so that when we have better times, we're able to resume to more normal protocols, we can then continue with completing the comprehensive care.
Right. And, I wanted to point out that reflects exactly what is happening in all our practices with all our patients, that we've had to pivot and focus on the most urgent care primarily. And so the elective care has been put on hold or been put on the back burner. That's a very important point that you highlighted. And just as we do for our other private practice patients, we are prioritizing pain and infection right now, especially in light of the growing waiting list with the referrals from multiple shelters. Thank you so much, Renu. I appreciate your feedback. Maureen and Renu, thank you both so much for continuing to screen and treat patients during this pandemic. It's been a very challenging time. We've all had shutdowns, and we've all had to in a way become policy writers and get our individual clinics up and running in a safe manner. And that's, exactly what we strive to do for our foundation patients, to ensure safety for everyone above anything else. So for our patients, for our teams, to that end, I also wanted to add that we, as the dentists and dental practitioners of the foundation, are following the very strict protocols of processing patients and treating patients, as was set out by Public Health and by Royal College of Dentists of Ontario, to ensure that we take care of patients appropriately. Right now, during lockdown, we, as we are essential workers, we continue to work and and provide treatment for our patients. However, the wait times are definitely longer than before. And I would like to now turn back to Janae to ask you about what can patients expect once they've been accepted into the program and assigned to a particular dental practitioner. What are the foundation's expectation and request from the patients?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mesame. That's a good question. So if the screening dentist finds that the patient's needs are fit with the program, they'll be asked to sign the patient acceptance form. This form essentially describes the patient's commitment to the program and outlines their responsibilities. So all of our practitioners in the Restoring Smiles network volunteer their time and donate their services. So usually appointments are on a short notice basis, and especially now during the pandemic, as Dr. Varshney mentioned, the offices are operating with limited resources. So therefore, the patient should give 48 hours notice if there's a change in appointment time. Patients who cancel without notice will be dismissed from the program, and also will not be accepted into the program if they miss 2 screening appointments. As well, the foundation provides dental treatment limited to the comprehensive dental treatment originally created, and all personal information will be held in strictest confidence according to HIPAA. So the patient has to sign this form once they are admitted into the program.
Okay, that's wonderful. I know in speaking with our practitioners over the years, some of the challenges have been in having fallout to treatment, because some of our patients are not able to continue because they're relocating, or perhaps, as Michelina pointed out before, because of the other stressful factors that really prohibit them from following through with appointments. So we're very cognizant of the fact that it is a big responsibility, and it can be at times intimidating and stressful to present for long treatments. But also the other challenge from a practitioner's perspective is that once the time and appointment has been created and reserved for patients, they would really like to dedicate that time specifically for that patient. And so it's really important for us to have continuous communication with the patient and with the referring organization if a patient is not able to present for the appointment. If, especially right now during the pandemic, if they screen positive for COVID, or if there's an outbreak of COVID in any one of the residential places. And so, you know, there are a lot of factors going on, but we continue to strive to accommodate foundation patients as we adjust these difficult times. The good news is Pfizer and Moderna look very promising. So hopefully we will all be vaccinated, and who knows, maybe we will have point of care testing facilities. So at every dental office, we can have a screening tool for COVID, and so we can see many more patients. All right, so thank you, ladies. Thank you very much. I hope that our shelter partners who are joining in found that informative and helpful. We will share a recording of tonight's meeting on our website. Zoom is overwhelmed, as you can imagine, with all the recordings of the various meetings worldwide. And so it will probably take a few weeks before we have it available to you. All the forms and the policies that we reviewed tonight is actually located on our website. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, to Janae or myself, and to the website, and we will do our best to provide you with answers. On this very last section of our roundtable, I'm so excited to be joined by two very special people. So I'd like to introduce to you two of our past patient liaisons who I personally try and stay in close contact with, because they're so amazing and vibrant and fun, and they just make me happy every time I communicate with them. I would like to start by introducing the very lovely Rulani Chalk. Rulani, there she is. Hi, Rulani. I got worried when I didn't see you on the screen there for a moment. So Rulani was our very first patient liaison, and she is a former Restoring Smiles patient. Probably one of the first couple of years when we started the program. She's gone through the growing pains with us. And actually, Rulani and I had babies approximately around the same time. Rulani is, I'm going by memory here, Rulani, she's a data analyst at one of the large banks in Canada. And she's also the co-founder of her own private catering business. She's a mother of 3 and a fashionista extraordinaire. Welcome, Rulani.
Thank you.
Our next guest, or our other guest, is the wonderful Saye Sky. Saye was also a former Restoring Smiles patient and a patient liaison for the foundation. Saye, in the times before Zoom, has knocked on many doors, many shelter doors, to deliver her lived experience and her knowledge and her support to residents of shelters in the past. And Saye is an Iranian-Canadian rap artist and LGBTQ rights activist at the forefront of a new hip-hop movement that has its basis in social consciousness. She was born in Tehran, Iran, my own place of birth as well. Saye Sky was forced into exile for daring to be the first person to speak about the Iranian LGBTQ community, and their existence and struggle for freedom while living in Iran. Most recently, after 2019 German tour with close to 30 shows, Saye composed original music and wrote the soundtrack of the multi-award winning German film No Hard Feelings. Welcome, Saye and Rulani. Saya, are you there?
Hi, Dr. Mesami. Hi.
Oh, there is that voice.
Yes, salam.
Wonderful.
So great to be here. Hi, Dr.
Oh,
Fan and
yes.
everybody else. I just wanna take this time. Excuse me. I just want to take this time and thank everybody who's on this board and who continues to do this all the time, regardless of all the obstacles. Thank you so much. So that was, I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, you see what I mean, everyone? They're amazing. Wonderful. So while you have the floor, Saya, I wonder if you can share some of your experience with restoring smiles with us.
Oh my God. I mean, first of all, everything, amazing stories all the time from the moment that I met Dr. Fan. And she told me, you just won the lottery. And I was like, what? Like, I could not fathom the fact that there was such a resource that could actually help me with my situation. Because after running away from the Iranian government, hitting me in the face with a baton, like, here I am, a doctor tells me that, you know what, you just won the lottery. So it was from the first second to the very last. The last hasn't ended. I mean, the love is always there, and I always think about foundation, but such special care I've never seen anywhere else. Such special care, with so delicate, so kind, so loving. And it was just an amazing experience with Dr. Fan, with Dr. Shadman, with you, Dr. Tina, and everybody else who was involved. Like, I feel like this is such an amazing opportunity for a lot of people. And I think I have some thoughts around if the foundation could open their wings to other communities, other unprivileged communities. Like, I know that you have this criteria that they should be a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. But there are refugees who are coming here, and they've been through the same experience, if not worse. And if they can't have access to such resources, they would start their lives way later than other people here, because that's such an important thing. It's your mouth. It's the way. I mean, humans are born to communicate to each other, to connect with each other, and if that is your mouth is the way, you know what I mean? I mean, there are other ways, but it's the most simplest, but most important way. And if that's in danger in any way, for any reason, I think it would stop people from going to places, getting to their dreams, because it's right there. It's in your face. You see it. You look at the mirror. You want to see something. You want that confidence from the mirror. But if you're not getting it, and your situation is because maybe you're a transgender woman, can they reach out to foundation and get the resources? Maybe the LGBTQ community, especially the refugee LGBTQ community and non-binary people, are really they have nowhere to go, because they usually face trauma and abuse from their parents if they had a bad coming out, or if they were rejected, neglected. And I think that those areas also could be great areas for the foundation to touch base on, and see if you can stretch your wings and take care of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And Saya, thank you for that. You just touched on some of the very important points that we strive to reach as we expand our horizon, as you said, and as we expand the eligibility criteria. We have been advised also by many granting organizations to expand our criteria, because I have to say there is no other organization
No.
in Ontario, and perhaps not even in Canada, that offers this level of treatment. So thank you for your insight, and I couldn't agree with you more. And that's really the reason for having information sessions and roundtables like tonight, to be able to, get the word out, and be able to help more people. So for instance, one of the people that I see Sheila is still logged in. One of the people that I've spoken with, and one of the organizations that we have been communicating with and we're hoping to partner with, is in fact not part of the women's shelters for violence or family shelters. Is actually the acute care centers for sexual assault and domestic violence. And this organization, as an example, has, if I'm not mistaken, Sheila, correct me if I'm wrong, 37 hospitals, 37 programs across Ontario. So to be able to reach out to all these sites, we need doctors in all these places. And it's like the chicken and the egg. We need to expand and have more partners, but also then we need to expand and have more doctors, and so on and so forth. And such has been our growth over the past 10 years. We do a little bit of that, and then we do a little bit of that. So I really appreciate that information and feedback. Sheila, I do want to come back to you and get your opinion, but I just want to ask one follow-up question from Saye. Saye, in your comment, you mentioned that you were treated by the three of us. Can you, so to myself, I for oral surgery, Dr. Shadman, orthodontic treatment, and Dr. Fenn. So we worked as a team to bring you the comprehensive treatment that Doctors Fenn and Varshni were talking about today. It's really a team effort, a cooperative effort, partnering with our patients. How did you find that the team addressed your specific dental needs? You mentioned that you had trauma to the face with a baton during one of your peaceful demonstrations, not so peaceful in Iran, right? And because you're not actually allowed to be associated with the LGBTQ community, right, in Iran?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
right.
not.
Yes. And so you suffered the unfortunate facial trauma as well as dental trauma. So how did this cooperative effort, multidisciplinary effort, how did we do, and how did we help you?
That's an amazing question, because each of you have your own practices, and you have your own way of doing things, which is amazing to see how different doctors can work on a matter, because I'm the one who's going around, right? So I think it was very interesting, because I think when Dr. Fenn checked me, she was writing down information for you. She was writing down information for Dr. Shotman. She was, I think she was actually checking what her assistant was doing this. But Dr. Fenn was looking at it as a whole, as a piece together. How can we make this better from all different angles? What does it need to be done? So this smile is there, so the confidence is there. And I feel like the whole approach was so modern and also practical in such a way that you guys didn't miss anything. Like, like Dr. Fenn took care of everything that she could at the office, and then I was sent to Dr. Shotman, and then I was sent to you, and then going back and forth. This was just, it was very collaborative. And I know so many people who might be qualified for receiving dental care might not be mentally there to actually follow up with every single appointment, because to so many people, anxiety, PTSD, these are all legit things that people have. And sometimes a phone call can trigger people, can add to their anxiety. And I understand that. I think the patient also needs to be mentally ready or prepared to be able to follow up with different, because of course you guys are doing this from your heart, and it's your time, and if that chair is empty, somebody else needs to be there. Yeah, that's what you're there for. So I feel like it's very collaborative, and it's a two-sided road. I mean, multi-sided because of all of you, but yeah, it was that the approach was really amazing in a sense that nothing was left out behind, nothing. Even though there were things that Dr. Finn needed you or Dr. Shadman to do, she was still thinking about those things. And when I saw Dr. Shadman, she told me that she's gonna write an email to you and talk about this way, and the ways that I'm not sure, but their own ways. So to me, that was really, really amazing. It was just pure first class, world class project. It was a project. It's like bringing that smile is a project. And I get compliments on this smile non-stop. I get compliments on the smile, like in Germany, in San Francisco. Like I go around the world and people are like, "Oh my God, your smile is amazing," and I'm like, "Yeah, thank you." So great.
Well, thank you for that feedback. I think your physical smile is amazing, but the person attached to that smile is even more amazing. So you are incredible. You are inspiring. You are powerful. You always have been. And to echo what you said, Saye, for some of our guests who may not be so familiar with the dental procedures, I just wanted to emphasize that what Saye is saying is 100% accurate. So the treatment that we have always aspired to provide is the gold standard of dentistry. So the science and practice of dentistry in North America is really the highest in the world, and we really provide our patients the best treatment without holding back, the best treatment that can bring them back to their natural function and to their natural smile. So, for instance, in Saye's case, if there's an underlying problem, whether it was acquired or by trauma or congenital or due to other oral and dental diseases, if there is a need for orthodontic treatment to realign the dentition and to balance the bite for better function, for better chewing capacity, for better speech, then we will do that. And that was what Dr. Shadman provided, orthodontic treatment, which takes anywhere from 18 months to 3 years. If there is a need for surgical treatment, for extraction of teeth, jaw surgery, placement of dental implants, bone grafting or reconstruction before those things can happen, then we will do that. And most importantly, as Saye pointed out, the role of Dr. Fenn and the role of our practitioners, the general practitioners who provide the hub and the center and the focal point for treatment of the patients. And they're the ones that create this comprehensive treatment plan. And they're the ones that monitor and manage all communications within the foundation teams. And so in dentistry, very much like in medicine, the primary caregiver lives with the family doctor, in our case, with a family dentist. So that's the role our practitioners provide. And so you can see, everyone, why what we do is so delightful and so rewarding. I mean, what else can you ask for in a day's work? Thank you so much, Saeed, for being here. And hopefully when life is back to normal, you'll come and perform at a real in-person roundtable.
Yes. Oh my
We
God,
love
I
to-
cannot wait for that. I would love to. And every time, like last year and the year before, I was in Berlin and I was doing other stuff. But yeah, hopefully after Corona, everybody's safe and can get the vaccine and yeah, move on with our lives.
That would be great. And enjoy some of your lovely entertainment.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Masemi.
Thank you, Saeed, for being here and for your time. Rulani, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. I would love to have a chat with you. And I'm going to ask you to start with the same question as Saeed, that I would love to know what impact did your dental treatment have on your life at the time it was provided?
Thank you. That's a great question. Actually, I wanted to touch on what I think Michalina, I hope I said her name correctly, and what Saya mentioned earlier, which is pretty important about the mental space. And for me, because I was in the shelter I was in, Dr. Roz's Healing Place was really great because they helped on, there was a lot of therapy and a lot of exercises on building up yourself, feeling your self-esteem and self-worth. So I feel I was mentally prepared when I was approached for this opportunity. I didn't even know about it. And what happened is I received a phone call and I was asked to come in for, I guess, the screening with Dr. Fenn. And then from then onwards, I went on to meet you and the other people from the foundation. So how it impacted my life is at that time, coming out of the shelter, I didn't have a job. I was fortunate. They helped me with a lot of things. They helped me secure daycare so I'd be able to look out and look for a job. They helped me secure housing. So I didn't have to worry so much about where I was going to stay. So I was open, at least in a lot of ways, I had access to support for me to be able to fulfill the requirements to be a patient, to see it through to the end. So for example, childcare was not a major factor for me, and I had access to a vehicle. So I was able to come to the appointments regularly. And that was a wonderful thing that they did. But the impact that it had for me is that it just, I had gone through such a period where you kind of forget a little bit of who you are. And I misplaced a bit of myself. And then just seeing my tooth it was hurting. It was one of the canines where the incisors was crumbling away. So I couldn't even smile. Like when I would talk, I'd practiced I could speak kind of like this. And people used to wonder why, because I was ashamed to show my whole face and I couldn't talk. I wasn't myself at all. So it really helped me because I came back to the person I know I am. And it just, the confidence that it gave me and the fact that I just felt you come to this country, you come and you have to fit in and figure out where you are and all these things. I didn't think about how they would weigh or affect me, because when you're young, the idea of stress in your 20s, you don't even know what that is. But when you get to 30, suddenly you understand what stress is. And I feel that when I was younger, I didn't even understand the concept of stress. But when I had the children and gone through the relationship I'd been through and all the problems and reaching what I felt was the lowest point in my life, I didn't know who I was at all. But having that smile back, having a little bit of myself, and also, to be honest, I'll be candid with you, having attention that was not negative drawn to me by the caregivers, people actually caring and investing in me made me feel better too. I felt worthy. I felt ready to receive all the blessings that were meant to be mine. And I felt worthy again. And before, there was a time I didn't feel that way. So the impact for me has been honestly life-changing, in my opinion. I feel I'm really, really in a good place. And I feel that's primarily for me fixing internally and then the external when the teeth were fixed. So 10 years plus. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I couldn't imagine you without your, not being your vivacious self for having limitations. And, I have to say, I personally lived with you through that transition. And that is the process that we very often see in our patients. Perhaps the intimidation, perhaps mentally where they are in life at the time, where they are more reserved, and then with increased trust and familiarity and the relationships that develop, we see the authentic person coming out. And so that is brilliant. I wanted to ask you, you touched upon, not having childcare as a barrier. Can you talk to us, where are some of the barriers to treatment that you may have faced? And how can we help our patients overcome those barriers?
Okay, I do feel, for me, like I mentioned earlier, that I was fortunate that the childcare wasn't so much of a problem, but I do think that might be a barrier for a lot of women in the situation I was in, unless they're in the shelter. If you're still in the shelter and you're getting assistance, then it's better because they have childcare within that whole framework. But when you're outside of it and you don't have childcare, that is a big barrier. And I don't know how it could be best addressed. I don't know. I honestly haven't given much thought to it, but I feel that's one of the main ones. Another thing is, I was thinking when Sai mentioned, and it was a very good point when because the status, for example, permanent residence or applying for permanent residence. And I think that applying for permanent residence, it is good, but then for a long time, because I came as a refugee to Canada, so for a long time I was just a refugee, as at the time I was a student. I didn't even have money to pay the PR cost. So fortunately I wasn't going through bad time at that time, but if I were in that position, then that would have been a barrier for a young woman who's going through a situation where she does need help, but you can't because you're a refugee or you don't have permanent residence or you haven't applied for that. That might be a barrier that I feel maybe if there's a way we could address it to lift it, that might be beneficial. And also, as she mentioned, which is a big problem right now, is the fact that there aren't many resources for the LGBTQ people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, absolutely. For our existing patients, if you could send out a message to them, what would you say to them? What message also do you have for us as practitioners, how we can welcome our patients better, and how can we create a safer and more secure environment for them?
Okay, great. I could start with the second question first. I feel that the Restoring Smiles has done a phenomenal job. For example, I felt very welcomed and very safe, but I also feel maybe because I'd gone through that shelter experience, so having to talk to somebody who's a stranger initially about my situation, it wasn't as daunting by the time I got to meet you people. However, I do also think when I met Dr. Fenn was when I was actually at the shelter. She came over and she was very empathetic, very, very calm, just wanting to know what the facts were, explaining what the foundation did and the procedures that might be available if I did qualify. I found that it was encouraging and made me hopeful. And also by the time when I got to the offices, I'm not treated any differently. I didn't feel in any way, I felt my privacy was respected as well. That was one major thing that I really appreciated, is that I felt as if I was just another person walking in. I didn't feel singled out, and I felt welcomed at every single step and every single corner. So the staff has been amazing. You've done a great job. Even when I think I mentioned it in the email, there was an incident. I think I had to do like the actual surgery. And I believe maybe yourself, Dr. Misami, mentioned that one of the anesthesiologists, I can't say it, was male, and if I'd be okay with that. And that's a consideration that a lot of places, that's not really that's something that you take for granted. And I appreciated that. And I think that you've done a great job at the foundation in doing these kinds of things. What I would like to tell a woman in that position, in the position I was in, or any position, is not to be afraid to seek help, because thankfully we're in a country that understands that there are people who need to have help, and there are resources that do support people who are willing to help. Don't be afraid to tell people, because you will be surprised who the person you speak with might be the one who can offer you access or even opportunities to the help that you require. And don't be ashamed. That's one thing I'm learning slowly now, is not to be ashamed, because it wasn't your fault, and it is your fault. You're just somebody who life happens and life throws things your way. But importantly, I like to say that never lose yourself, because you're fearfully and wonderfully made. And nobody can come and call you out of what your parents called you. Nobody can call you out of your name. That's what I'll tell them from my heart.
You're so beautiful. As you said that, your eyes were shining. There was a glitter in your eyes, and I love that. I saw that on this little image of you that I have on my screen.
Because I was telling myself, because you have to tell yourself. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but you have to tell yourselves, and we're not kind to ourselves at all.
That's
all
right.
of us, we're not kind.
Rolani, that's good advice for all of us, but especially for women in these circumstances. And it's really important for everyone to understand that it's just a point in time. These situations can be they don't define the people. It's just a phase of their lives, and so. It's so heartwarming, and I know I speak on behalf of all our practitioners, Maureen, Renu, Beatrice, and a few other ones that are on the call today, that to hear you speak, to hear you, Saya, and Michalina speak, and to get these feedbacks, we know we're doing something right, and we know we're making a difference, and that's the encouragement that we need from you, to know we're on the right path. And this is why it's so important for us to have patient liaisons and patient advisors to tell us what we need to do. I thank you, Rolani. Thank you, Michalina and Saya, for your tremendous support. You are all such wise people with such tremendous insight that have gone through such a wonderful journey. I also want to thank our doctors on the advisory committee, Dr. Maureen Fenn, Dr. Renu Varshni, Dr. Shiva Shadman, and Dr. Yasmin Mauji, for your unwavering support over the past 10 years, really from the very first phone call. And I really want to thank everybody else, that our fundraising team and our gala team, and our board members, everybody who helps us on every day to help us grow and do more and be better. I am very cognizant of the fact that we are 13 minutes over time, and I would like to wrap things up and allow a few minutes for a question and answer period. And in closing, I am very, very excited to announce that we do continue to grow, and we have two very exciting programs other than the master's thesis to bring to you. And the first one is a new project under the foundation that is called Restoring Sleep, which focuses on treatment of sleep disorders, and in particular obstructive sleep apnea. And we have partnered with University Health Network, with a team of scientists under the leadership of Dr. Azadeh Yadullahi, who is a scientist at UHN, together with myself and Dr. Andrew Buzari and Mandeep Singh, to start an initiative to start treating patients from various shelters in Ontario with sleep disorders, in order to restore their function and allow them to have overall a better sense of well-being. We are also in the early stages of developing our third program, Restoring Movement, with a group of orthopedic surgeons and rehabilitation and physiotherapists to provide treatments that are not covered under OHIP for ongoing chronic pain and functional problems. So with that bit of good news, I welcome anyone who would like to make comments or ask questions to stay behind, and we are here and delighted to answer any question. Feel free. Let me go to Janae first. Janae, did you have any questions from the chat?
No, there are no questions in the chat.
Okay. Let's go to the audience. Is there any question from the audience? Well, that means we were very thorough and we covered everything. Yes, thumbs up indeed. Thank you. Okay, well, wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for helping us record this information session. As mentioned before, it's extremely helpful to have this on our website for future to provide information, to be able to provide help to as many people as we can. Have a wonderful evening.
There's a one question on the chat. Are services available for female identifying people?
Yes, absolutely. The criteria is women and individuals identifying as women.
Thank you, Misha.
Any other questions? Would any of our wonderful doctors like to comment? No? Okay. Well, thank you. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Thank you.
Good night.
I just wanted to say thank you for the great session. It was great hearing from everyone tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Yadullahi. It's nice to see your face.
Oh, I mean, I put myself there. I turned off the camera to.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So we are going to do one of these information sessions with restoring sleep. So for, I guess it's our partners that are left on the panel here. Everyone, this is Dr. Azadeh Yadullahi. She's a scientist and at University Health Network. She's a biomedical engineer and PhD by training. She's also my lovely research partner who has initiated a grant, a CIHR grant, which we're keeping our fingers crossed for, and to enable us to reach out and be able to treat individuals living in shelters across Ontario for sleep disorders. So
in fact, I'm so thankful to Tina for helping to really initiate this study. And even without the grant, we're going to start that study probably at a smaller scale, but we're not waiting for the grant. We will always find other ways to get it going. And
yes,
hopefully the money comes somehow.
Yes, we'll figure out a way to bring the money in to cover our expenses.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. All right, lovely to see all your lovely faces. Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye.
Good night, everyone.